Before you start this activity, make sure you have all the weather data, observations 1 through 20. You can get those from my Moodle page and put them in your Notability folder. Once you have that, make sure you're watching the correct video. If you are A and B, you should be watching this video. I'm going to explain how you're going to be graphing the temperature from the 20 days of data. If you are C or D in your lab group, you are going to watch a different video that explains how to graph the dew point data. So make sure you have a white sheet called Variables that Affect Air Pressure. And what we're going to be doing is looking at, in this case, what is the relationship between temperature and air pressure. The air pressure data for the 20 days has already been graphed, and you are going to be graphing temperature. So notice the bottom here. We need to take care of a few things before we start plotting data. You're going to graph temperature, so if you want to circle that, you can. You need to give your graph a title. What is being shown on this graph? Then you need to label the X and the Y axis. Again, not only what is being graphed using that axis, but the unit. And then a key. So over here you need to finish the key. So the x-axis on the y-axis on the left has already been done. It's called air pressure, but I didn't write the units. So what units are these numbers in? 29, 29.2. If you're not sure, check your air pressure notes from last class. And we're going to make a graph that has two y-axes. So when we look at air pressure, we're going to read the left side of the graph. So for instance, this point here, since it's air pressure, I would read the left side, and that would represent a little more than 29.8. When you plot temperature, you're going to use the numbers on the right side of the graph, and this is why a key is important, so I know which lines go with which side of the graph. So looking at your temperature data for the 20 days you plotted, our lowest temperature, it looks like it's 34, and our highest, it looks like it's 64. So the best way to use your space is again start at 0, and then if you recall that symbol I taught you earlier in the year, it looks like a Z, which means we're going to cut out some of the numbers on the y-axis. And then if you start at 30 and every other line go by 5s, you should have enough space to plot your temperature. Now your x-axis, we need to figure out what are these numbers because they're not dates. So figure out what you could write on the x-axis. So what do these numbers represent? So make sure you label your graph before you start plotting your data. And then when you're ready, open up your data that you have in Notability and plot your data on the paper. So you'll plot each observation. So on the observation number 1, what was the temperature? Reading the right side of the graph, you'll put a dot, and then keep going for all 20 days and connect the dots. When you're finished, you look at the back side of your graph and you're going to have some questions. Overall, what I want to know is if the lines go up and down together, that is a direct relationship. So they go down and up and down overall. If it seems like one goes up while the other goes down, that is called an inverse relationship. So the first thing you need to look at is what does your graph seem to be showing you? And then the second one is just a reminder of what you graphed. And then a conclusion. So in your case, do we tend to see high pressure when temperatures are low or when temperatures are high? So what is that relationship? And then you're going to write some examples, some specific examples from your graph that support your answer. When you're finished, you're going to be discussing your graph with the other people in your lab group. So just be patient, and when they're ready to share their answers, you're going to have a discussion.